Hi guys, you're welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Norma. So guys, in today's tutorial we're going to be making this beautiful ball dress. You can see how beautiful this dress is on this little princess. Okay, so without further ado, let's dive right into the video. So these are the fabrics which we are going to be using for this dress. This sequence, blue sequence, velvet sequence, we are going to be using it for the upper part of the dress, and we'll be using this for the upper part. Then this is the net for the gathers, and this is the satin. It'll be underneath the net, and this is the lining. Then this is the skin net. Okay, so let's dive right into the tutorial. So starting off, we're going to be folding our fabrics like so, using the measurement or the widest part of the measurement. For children, mostly their waist and their chest or their bust is almost the same, so just divide your bust or chest into four, then use it to fold whatever you get. Use to fold your fabric. Then you can add your sewing allowance about 2 inches. Children dresses, I do not add that. Okay, so now I just ruled the starting point. Okay, so my measurements are going to be starting from that point you are seeing there. Okay, so yeah. So now that we've ruled that starting line, we're just going to take our shoulder measurements at that line divided by 2. Okay, just take your shoulder measurement divided by 2 basically, when you place that measurement there. So from that point you come down by 1 inch for your shoulder slope, then take 2 inch from the neck area, as in as a neck width for now. Okay, then slant it to meet the 1 inch you came down by. Okay, just slant it to that point. Then when you have your slanted line like that, you're going to measure your armhole. Okay, armhole, you just divide your armhole divided by 2. Okay, for me here I'm using 5 inches. Using 5 inches, then I'll take exactly the same measurements I have at the shoulder. That shoulder area, note I added half an inch, okay, for my sewing allowance to join my sleeve to the bodice. Okay, so just measure that same shoulder measurement at your bust, chest line, armhole area, then come in by 1 inch at that sharp point. Then measure what you have, your shoulder measurement divided by, as in your armhole measurement rather, divided by 2. Then at the midpoint they come in by half an inch. That will serve as your front armhole. Okay, then you just curve it like so to meet that 1 inch. You do this when you do not have, if you want to use your free hand and you don't want to use your armhole curve. Okay, so at that chest area, we're going to take in our bust measurement or chest measurement divided by 4. Then I'm going to be adding 2 inches for my sewing allowance. Okay, so from the shoulder area there, I'm taking my half length, that is from my shoulder to my waist. That's the measurement I'm taking here, from my shoulder to my waist. Okay, from the shoulder to the waist. So that's what we have there. And here I think I used about 10.5 or thereabout. Yeah, 10.5. So I'm just ruling that mark. But before I took that mark, I added 1 inch to it. Okay, if your measurement is 10 or 10.5, just add 1 inch. I added 1 inch, so everything for me was 11.5. So I took my waist divided by 4, and I also added 2 inches to it. So I connected it to the bust area. Then I came up at that end by about 3/4 of an inch 0.75 or half an inch. For adults I use 1 inch, but here I use 0.75 just to give you that slight curve at that edge. Okay, it makes it sit perfectly. Okay, so I came back to the shoulder, added my shoulder allowance as in what I'm going to be using to join the shoulders together, half an inch. So I just connected it back to the neck area there. So that is what we have, and this is exactly how I'm going to be cutting out my front bodice. This is the front block, so I'll just take my scissors and cut this out basically. So you can see guys, I'll cut this out. So I'm going to be using this to cut the back. Okay, so I folded my fabric again into two. Then you can see I left about 1 inch at that midpoint. That's going to be serving as my zipper allowance. So for cutting out the back, we took about half inch out from the midpoint of the armhole. So that is what I'm replacing, because we're not going to be taking anything out from the back. We're just going to be leaving it straight like that, then curve it into the armhole. So I just replaced that half an inch, and every other thing is going to be exactly the same. So I'm just going to cut this out like so. So now I'm done cutting the back block. So we are just going to be doing a little bit of adjustment, okay, for this back. You know, we took out 0.75 at that waist area. You also take it out at the midpoint of the back, okay, just connect it to that 0.75. We want the back to be straight and to be shorter than the front, okay, so that we do not have any excess or bulge at the back area. Then after cutting this out, we're still going to be removing half an inch from the zipper area of this back block. This will enable you to eliminate any bulge at the back area. You know our back is not straight, so I'm just going to lift the front up like that, and you can see just watch closely what I'm going to be doing here. So I took out half an inch from that point. You can see where I placed my tape. I took out a half an inch. Then I'm going to be ruling a slanted line upwards. Okay, I'm just going to be taking that out. It will eliminate any bulge, because our back, you notice our back is deep at that middle point. So just take this out so we do not have any bulge at the back. Okay, this helps that very well. So I'm just going to be taking it out. You can see what I'm doing, and I'm just going to be opening the rest like so. So that back area, we have a bit of slanted look. So now this our upper part is going to be having a yoke. So we are going to be cutting out the area we are going to be replacing with the skin net. Okay, we'll be using the skin net for our yoke. So I just come down by anything you want. I came down by 5 inches to the armhole area. So it depends on how deep you want, but it's better to come down to the chest area so that the bust will not be showing, the breast of the child will not be showing. So I came down to the chest area, which is 5 inches, and I measured it like so. Okay, you can see what we have there. So I'm going to be cutting this out for both the front and the back, because they are going to be having your front and back. So I'm going to be cutting it out like so, but before I cut this out, I'm going to be coming up by half an inch, because if I cut out exactly on the line, by the time I stitch it with half an inch, it will drop. So I'm going to be coming up by half an inch, so that will serve as my sewing allowance. So when I'm done sewing, it remains the same 5 inches that I took. Okay, so that is what I simply did there. So I'm just going to cut it out like so. So before I cut out, let me just measure the neck. Okay, for the back for the front I'm going to be using about 2.5 inch, because I don't want this neck to be too deep. I want it very very close to the neck. So for the back I'm using 1 inch and 1 inch depth and 2 inches width. I'm still using that 2 inches, or I just went ahead to add half an inch to that 2 inches, which is 2.5 inch width and 1 inch for the depth for the back. And for the front I use 2.5 inch width for the front and also 2.5 inch depth. Okay, that's what I use for the front, and that is that. So now that I've cut out the neckline, I'm just going to cut the yoke out. I'm just going to cut the yoke like so. So now that I've cut out the yoke, you can see what we have. So I'm actually going to be using this to cut out the yoke for my, I'm going to be using it, transferring it to my skin net to cut out my yoke. Okay, so now I brought my skin net and I folded it into two, then placed the front on it like so. Then I'm just going to be using it to cut out. But before I cut this out, I'm going to be adding about half an inch. I'm going to be adding half an inch to the down area. Okay, you can see, so that it will serve as my sewing allowance as well. You can see I've added half an inch down there, you can see. So just add your half an inch, then cut the rest exactly the same way. Just cut the rest exactly. So now I've gone ahead to cut that. Now this is what we have for our yoke. Okay, so I'm just going to be cutting this again because I'm going to be using it to turn each other. So I'll cut another piece of this, so I have two for the front. Okay, now I want to cut out the back. I'm also going to add half an inch at that down part as well to serve as my sewing allowance. So I've gone ahead to cut out the back piece. Just going to slit that midpoint open. Just trimming it properly. So I went ahead to cut out 2 pieces each for the yoke, so that I can use it as my lining to turn it. Okay, so now that I'm done with that, I'm just going to bring my satin. Okay, my satin, I want to cut out the satin for the down part of this dress. So to cut out the satin for the down part of the dress, you have to measure, because I'm going to be using half circle. Okay, so you have to take the measurements correctly. So for a half circle is actually, the formula for the half circle is actually 3.14. So you're going to be taking the child's waist measurement and divide it by 3.14. So once you divide it by 3.14, you have the exact waist. Then you add about 1 inch for your zipper, thereabout. But if you want gathers, you can add whatever you want to use for the gathers, then divide it by 3.14. Okay, but for me, I'm using the exact waist measurement divided by 3.14, and that will give me the radius that I'm going to be using for this down area. Okay, so I've gone ahead to divide mine. So I folded into two first, because for half circle you're going to fold in like in the form of triangle. I folded the fabric into two first, then folded it again like a triangle. You can see what we have here. One side is folded, then the other side will be open. So from that sharp point there, whatever you have for your radius, after measuring your waist divided by 3.14, whatever it gives you, that is what you add your zipper allowance, okay, then divide by 3.14, whatever it gives you, that will be your radius you're going to be using. So what it gave me, that's what I used for my radius, placing my tape at the sharp point to measure my radius. So now to measure the length of so to measure the length, you're going to be taking the half length of the child, that's the shoulder to your waist. Place your tape on that line, as in if you have 10.5 inches like whatever you have, just place your tape on that 10.5 inches. You can see what I'm doing. So we are placing the tape on the 10.5, then measure the length of the dress. Okay, if you have 30 inches, place your tape on 10.5 and measure 30 inches. You can see, just measure, place your tape round like so, and measure whatever length you are using for this dress. Okay, so that is what I'm doing, placing my tape on my 10.5 inches and measuring the length. So from that point, I'm just going to connect it like so. So I've succeeded in measuring the dress, okay, the down part of this dress. So now I'm just going to be cutting it out, but when cutting out, note, do not cut on that folded area. Okay, just cut straight like so, making sure you're not cutting open the folded part. Okay, let me just roll this out so you can see what I am talking about. So now you can see that line that I've just rolled. So that is the line I'm going to be cutting on. Okay, that is the line I'm going to be cutting on. To determine the fold of this dress, you would have taken your measurements fully, okay, your measurements, then before you take the radius or thereabout. Yeah, so I'm just going to be cutting this out like so. You can see I'm just cutting on the line, making sure I do not cut open the folded parts. Okay, so once I get to that point, I'm just going to follow that line and cut. Just cut it out. Yeah, you can see. So after cutting this out, you're also going to be cutting the upper part like so. That is your waist area. So you see what we have here. We've cut out our half circle. You can see what we have here. When you open this up, this is what you have. And it's still folded into two. So once I open this up, you can see it is actually half circle. Okay, see that part is folded. So this area which is opened will serve as the zipper area basically. So now I've dropped that. I folded the net. I want to cut out the net. Okay, so I'm going to be making this net 3 layered. Okay, 3 layers, I mean is that I'm going to be placing 3 nets on each other, because I do not want the satin underneath to be showing. Okay, so I want this net to be full. When I place it on each other, I'm going to gather it as tight as possible, as full as possible, so that the satin which will be underneath will not be showing, will not be visible. Okay, so in order to do this, to cut this out, I'm just ruling this starting point, because net, when you fold it, at times it do not give you this even measurement. Okay, so I'm just going to cut that out to give us this equal length. That is why I wrote that point there. So from that line, I'm going to be measuring the length of this net. So before you measure the length of the net, measure the length of your satin, okay, and make sure your net is about 1 inch longer than the satin, okay, 1 inch longer than the satin. So that is what I did. I think my satin is about 20 inches and I measured 21 inches for my net. So I'm just going to be cutting this out like so. Just cut 21 inches out like so. So actually I think I bought about 8 yards of net. Yeah, I bought 8 yards of about 10 or 8 yards of net, basically. I can't remember. I'll put it in the screen when I actually remember. So I folded that whole 8 or 10 yards into just like so, then cutting it out 21 inches. Now that I've determined the length of the net, okay, so I want this to be 3 layered, okay, 3 layered on top of each other. So I'm just going to be cutting it like so. You can see what we have. So our net is ready. I am now going to keep this aside. So when cutting, I discovered that I changed my mind that I want the waist area to in front to be in form of a basque, okay, basque. I want it to have this basque effect. So I brought in the front again and I folded my fabric, then making sure I have about 3 inches longer at the waist area. You can see what we have. I'm just measuring 3 inches down there. So now that I have 3 inches, I'm just going to be slanting it to the waist area. This is just basically the difference, okay. I just changed my mind that I want to have a basque waistline for the front. So I just measured it, slanted it to the waist area like so. So I'm just going to be cutting it out exactly like so. Then the rest is the same thing. So I'm just going to cut this out. You can see what I'm doing. So just cut the rest parts the same way, okay. So now there, so we have a new front. So we're just going to do away with this one, and this is the one we're going to be using for this dress. I'm just trimming out the armhole properly. Yeah, so you can see what it looks like at that waist area, okay. So now that we're done cutting this out, we're going to be bringing our yoke, placing it on each other. You know, we have 2 pieces for each, so we're going to be using it to turn each other, just so at the neck area like so. You can see for the back as well, we have 2 pieces for each side, so at the neck area like so. Then I'll come back to show you guys what it looks like. So I'm done stitching the neck area down, and I also pressed it on low heat so you don't get your net burnt. So now that we have this, we are going to be joining the shoulder area together. So just go ahead and place it on each other like so, because we want to have a neat finishing inside. So you bring one part, place it on each other, open the front, open the back, connect the midpoints together. You can see what I'm doing, just watch closely. Then just like so, then pin it at the middle if possible, just to make it stable. Then stitch like so. You can see what I am doing. So I repeat the same process to the other side of the shoulder. Open it up like so, open the front as well. Make sure you connect the midpoints together align it together, then stitch on 1/2 inch. So I'll quickly take to my sewing machine and do that. So I'm done stitching. You can see what we have. The seam is inside. So once you're done stitching, you can trim it off to just have, the net is transparent, so that you have a neat work. Just trim it off and leave about 0.25 allowance there. So now we are done with that. We're now going to be connecting our yoke to the main bodice of the dress. Okay, so I'm just going to notch the midpoint of this part, and also notch the midpoint of the net. Just locate the midpoint of the net as well. Okay, basically you need to locate the midpoint so that it will be accurate. Okay, so just locate the midpoint, then bring it together. Just watch closely what I'm going to be doing. Flip this, put it on the right side of the main bodice, aligning the midpoint which you notched together. If possible, you can pin it down so that it doesn't move around. Then go to your sewing machine and stitch it with 1/2 inch. Also bring the back together as well, then align it properly, place it on the net like so, and stitch it down with 1/2 inch. You can see what I am doing. So just watch closely, place it like so. You're going to place it right side to right side, then stitch it down. Let me quickly do that. So I've gone ahead to stitch this down. You can see what we have so far. I've stitched this down. You can see what we have. You can see how beautiful this is coming out already. So I'm just going to picking it up. We're going to be using our lining to turn this out. I've already cut out lining exactly the same way I cut out the fabric. Okay, then for the lining, I went ahead to put a gum stay, the soft one, at the neck area. It helps to give it this hold so that when you stitch it down and iron it, it doesn't start coming out and showing at the net. It's very important for your neckline or whatever you are turning. Okay, so just notch the midpoint of the lining as well. Watch closely so that you see what I'm about to do here. So take that midpoint of the lining, flip this like so. Okay, so at the wrong side of the net, you can see what we have, but at the right side of the fabric, you can see the right side of the fabric is showing underneath the net. So just place the midpoint of the lining, the right side of the lining like so, then stitch it down with 1/2 inch, then flip it. Okay, you can see what I'm doing. You can stitch on this point that you are seeing the thread, so that you can stitch exactly on this thread. Okay, yeah, that's what I do. So I'm just going to be doing that for the front. Then once I'm done with that, it will hide the seam, the rough edge inside. Okay, so you have a neat finishing. So I'm going to be bringing the back lining as well. You can see what we have, but put it on the net like so, flip it like this, then stitch. Okay, repeat the same thing to the other side of the back area. So basically, then after you do that, you can just use your lining to turn the sides, but let me quickly do this first. So guys, you can see what we have so far. You can see how it's looking inside. I also went ahead to give it a good press, and you can see how the lining is laying flat and nice. It's not bulging out. So once you're done, just turn it like so again, then use your just stitch it down, the lining and the fabric together. Make sure you don't stitch the net, okay, so that you have this neat finishing inside. Flip for the back as well, then stitch the sides, lining and fabric together at the sides. Okay, so So just stitch together basically, and do the same thing to the other side of the back. So I've gone ahead to do that. I'm done with that. You can see what we have now. We have a very neat finishing. So we're just going to be placing it like so, fabric on each other, right side facing. Then use whatever measurement sewing allowance you left to stitch the sides together. So that's what we're going to be doing next. So I'm done with that. So I'm just going to be bringing my hard net, because this hard net is going to be on the lining. I went ahead to cut the lining exactly the same way I cut out the satin, but the difference is that I cut out the lining about 1 to 2 inches shorter than the satin, so it doesn't come out. Okay, I cut it shorter than the satin. So now, to determine how I'm going to be placing my net, because I want my net inside to be 2 layered, okay, to give it more push upwards. So I'm just going to be measuring what I have on the lining, because I'm still going to be hemming the lining down. So I'm going to be using 1 inch to fold the lining, hem the lining. So I'm also going to put that into consideration. So for the length of the lining, I think I have 19 inches. So I minus 1 inch for hemming it. So I'm going to be using 18 inches for my net. You can use 18 or 17 inches because the net has to be a bit shorter than the lining as well, so that it doesn't come out from the lining and start making the child uncomfortable. So the first layer that is going to be from the waist area to the length of the lining, or shorter than the lining about 1 inch, it has to be 18 or 19 or thereabouts. Yeah, so that's what I use for this. So I'm just going to be, it's on fold, I've cut this out, so I'm just going to be opening it up. Then once I open it up, then I'm going to be joining it together so that I have a longer net, okay, so I can gather it as much as possible. So I'm just slitting this open. So now that I've slitted this open, I'll take to the sewing machine and join this together, placing it on each other like you can see me doing. Then I'll just stitch it together, okay, so I have a longer net basically. So keeping this aside, I'm going to be cutting the next layer of the net. This is going to be starting from half, as in the half part of the lining. So you measure, make sure you measure what you have from the, if your lining is about 18, half of it will be 9 inches. So that is what I'm using for this. I just measured 9 inches. So just connect it like so, then cut it out. I'm going to be cutting this 9 inches into 2 so that I can also join it together and have a long net, okay, so I can gather it as full as possible. So I'm done cutting this out, so you can see what we have here. So I'm just going to be taking to the sewing machine as well, join all the nets together to have this very long net, okay. So now I'm done joining the nets. So I want to rule a line to serve as a guide where I'm going to be gathering my net on. I'm coming down by about 1 inch at the waist area, because I love to come down. I do not like to gather the nets on top of the waist directly. It gives it this swollen look that I do not like. So I came down by 1 inch from the waist area. So that is where the first layer of net is going to be starting from. Then for the second one, I measured the midpoint of this lining like so. When you're measuring this, make sure that you're not measuring the exact So the net should be shorter. That's what I'm trying to say. The net should be shorter than the lining, so it doesn't bulge out and make the child uncomfortable. So I'm just rolling that mark as well to serve as a guide where I'm going to be gathering the second layer from. You can see what I have. I'm going to be flipping this lining to the other side and also make the same mark at this side as well. Just making the same mark at this side as well. So I've done that for the upper one, and I want to do the same thing for the down part. You can see what we have right now. So I'm just going to open this up so you can see we have the mark round the lining. You can see what we have. So that is going to be the guide for gathering our nets. Okay, so I'm going to be bringing the net, then I'll gather it on the line. Okay, just run a gather stitch on the net, pull it, then make your gathers, then stitch it on top of the lining basically. Then do the same thing to the other side, the shorter parts of the net. Okay, just do the same thing basically. Also the same thing to the shorter part, just gather it on the line and stitch it down like so. So let me quickly take to the sewing machine and gather, but before gathering, just hem the lining. Okay, then you make your gathers. So guys, I'm done gathering the net on the lining, so you can see how this is looking already, so puffy. So if you want more gathers, you can do more layers. Okay, depending on how full or how bally you want this dress to come out. Okay, basically. So this is what we have now for the lining and the hard net. So now that we're done with this, we're just going to start making the gathering for the blue net. Okay, that is going to be on top of our satin. So I told you guys that this is going to be a three-layered net. So you can see what I am doing. I'm just going to bring the first layer like so, because I'm going to be putting it on top of each other. Okay, because I do not want the satin to be showing underneath the net. So because I do not want the satin to be showing underneath the net, I'm going to make these gathers as full as possible. Okay, so I'm just going to gather this, placing it on top of each other like so. I guess you can see what we are doing there. So I'm just going to place it on each other like so, making it 3 layers. You can see. So then I'll take to the sewing machine, join it together first of all, then make my gather stitch. Okay, so let's quickly go and join this 3-layer net together. Okay, and make the gathers. So guys, this is what we have now. I've gone ahead to make the gathers. You can see how full this is. So there is no way I'm going to placing this on my satin that the satin will be visible. Okay, because I do not like the look of having my satin to be showing under my ball dress. Okay, the look it gives is not cute. So it's always better to make your net as full as possible, so that you will not have the satin show. Even if the satin has to show, it doesn't have to be so obvious. Okay, so make yours as full as possible. So now we're just going to be placing this net on top of the satin. We're going to be placing the satin like so, then we're going to be stitching the gather net on top of it like so. You can see what I'm doing. I'm just going to be placing it on top of the satin. You can see after placing it on the satin, you cannot see the the satin anymore. You can see, because this is very full, guys. So I'm just going to take to the sewing machine right now and make a stitch to secure it to the satin. So this is what we have now. I've gone ahead to attach the net to the satin. So I'm just going to bring in the upper bodice now. I'll just notch the midpoint of this net, okay, so that to know the midpoint, just notch it like so. Yeah, basically. So once you're done notching, so you know where to start stitching from, okay. So that's the midpoint of the satin, and this is the midpoint of the upper part. So you're just going to align the midpoints together. You can see, make sure the right side of the upper part is facing the right side of the lower part. So just align it properly from the midpoint, then take to the sewing machine and stitch. Okay, just stitch it like you can see my hands showing you. Just stitch it like so. So let me quickly do that and I'll come back to show you guys. So this is what I have done. I've stitched it down. I've connected it to the upper part. You can see how this is looking. You can see the waist area, the basque area there in front. So what to do next? We're just going to be flipping this dress to the back, to the wrong side. We'll be flipping the dress to the wrong side. We'll be bringing our lining that we have already sewn our net on. So just flip the dress to the wrong side, then bring your lining which you've already attached your heart net on. So just watch closely. This is how it's going to be laying after you've done sewing it, okay. The lining, the net will be in between the lining and the satin, but to attach this to the waist area, just place the lining, okay. You can see the midpoint of the dress already there. Locate the midpoint of the lining as well, then hold it like so, then align it together. You can see what I'm doing, okay. Just take the right side of the lining and place on the wrong side of the net, then stitch it down. So once you're done stitching down, you flip it, so the lining is going to be concealing all the rough edges inside. So I've gone ahead to do that. You can see already how our dress is puffing up. You can see how beautiful it is already. You can see what this dress is looking like. You can see what it's looking like already. So beautiful. So the net is, the hard net is in between the satin and the lining. That way it doesn't touch the skin of the child and start making the child uncomfortable. So this is what we have so far. So what I'm going to be doing next is I'm going to be using the lining to turn the main fabric, okay, at the zipper area. Okay, I just want to use it to turn it at the zipper area so that we have a neat finishing inside, okay. So I'm just going to be taking the lining area. Just watch closely. Just align the net and the lining together. Flip it. You can see how I am holding it. Flip it. Align the net outside and the satin together. Then flip it like so. Take it down. You can see what I'm doing. Just watch closely. You'll be able to understand. So just take to the sewing machine now and stitch it. That way you have you successfully hide the seam inside, okay. So once you are done doing that, you have a neat end. You can see what we have now. You can see how neat that end is. So it is like that for the both sides, okay. So once you are done concealing the rough edges and making it neat, just hold it like so. You can see, hold it like so. Align the waist area together, okay? So one side does not get to be longer than the other. Just align it together. If you have your pin, you just pin it together. Then measure about 5 inches downwards, okay? That will be your zipper opening where you're going to be attaching your zipper from. So just measure about 5 inches downwards, then start your stitching from there. Measure 1 inch, then stitch on 1 inch, okay? So the opening will be for the zipper. So I'll quickly stitch that and fix my zipper. So guys, I'm done stitching, attaching my zipper as well. You can see what it is looking like. So I'm done with that. So it's now time for me to attach my sleeve. So this is a long sleeve. I'm actually using the same skein net for my sleeve, okay? So I've gone ahead to cut out my sleeve. This is just a basic sleeve. So I'm going to be bringing this. I'm actually using this to attach it at the hem of the sleeve. I think they call this horse tail or what. I think so, not sure, but I think so. So I'm just going to placing it like so and stitch it down. So once I'm done stitching, I'll fold it up and stitch the side, close the sides, okay, at the wrong side before connecting it to my sleeve. I'll repeat the same thing to the other side of the sleeve. So now I'm done fixing my sleeve. Then I'm going to be attaching this monkey tail, or yeah, I guess monkey tail to this dress at the chest area, and I'll be attaching this applique to the waist area just to highlight the basque effect of this dress, just to make it more visible basically. So I'm just going to be attaching that. I'm going to be hand stitching that with my thread and needle. I'll also stitch this as well to the back of my dress, okay, basically. Then once I am done with that, I have rhinestones also. I'm going to be placing that attaching that rhinestone. You can see what we have. It's also blue in color, the stones. We're just going to be attaching them, spacing it out as much as possible. Attach them to the skein net just to give it more spice, okay? So now I want to cut out the bow for the back. So I've gone ahead to cut out a piece of fabric, I think 10 inches on the length and about 8 inches width. So that is what I have for the satin. I also cut out the sequins as well. Yeah, okay, I'm going to be placing this smaller sequence at the middle of this satin just to give it that vibes. So that is what I have done. So I'm going to just take to the sewing machine to stitch this together before connecting them, okay? So this is what I have, okay? Length 8 inches, the big one, and width 8 inches, and the length 10 inches. Yeah, so I'm going to take to the sewing machine and stitch like you can see me doing. Then once I'm done stitching, I'll leave a small opening about 1 inch that I can turn it inside out, okay? Any way you like, just leave your opening so you can turn it inside out and give it a good press. I'll also repeat the same process for the sequence. Leave an opening that I can turn it inside out. So let me quickly do that and show you guys, okay? So basically it's going to be like this after stitching. The sequence will be in the middle. Then this is what it's going to be like. Let me quickly do that so I show you guys what the outcome So this is what we have. I'm done attaching the feather-like monkey tail to this dress, and also the applique to the waist basque area. And this is what I have for the bow. I also went ahead to use the applique to hold the bow together to give it more fit, and I'll just attach this to the back. Okay, I'm going to be tacking this permanently to one side. Then the second side, I'll be using a press button to attach it, okay, so that you can actually open it, to be able to open your zipper when the child is about to wear this dress, so it doesn't disturb. Okay, so I'll quickly tack that and our dress is done. So guys can see how the finished look of our dress. If you watch up to this point and you're not yet subscribed to my channel, please do well to subscribe. Give this video a thumbs up, it helps the channel grow. Thank you so much, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.